13, Parable 10, convention in the new Tesla Convention Hall. I'd like to call up to the stage, Matt Presley, everyone!
Hey, this is me from the future, and that was a pretty cool moment where Michael Sullivan introduced me there to a little talk I was giving on magic systems, and that he was hosting at his house with a bunch of amazing authors, which almost didn't get attached to this video because this video almost didn't exist, because as we were leaving the airport, the back of the SUV opened, and without our knowledge, my laptop in its case with this video and everything and fell out, and I didn't get it back for a couple of days, which were kind of harrowing. And included on there was the 4th book in my series that I haven't backed up or anything, and so I almost lost the ending to my series, as well as all my world building notes and my Bible and everything like that. So I'm thanking this as a public service announcement to back up your stuff. Always put it somewhere else, and don't let it fall out the back of a moving vehicle. With that in mind, I hope you enjoy this week's world. I am going to go get some sleep. Okay, so this is kind of an extra special episode of weekly world building. It turns out last week when I was working on primary, secondary, overlaid, and portal worlds, I built a secondary world and a portal to the real world, which is the primary world, and I didn't actually do an overlaid world. I didn't realize that till after the fact, so I didn't actually change the real world by adding magic to it. I just had some elves pop on over. So I am going to make up for that today by doing an overlaid world. If you remember, the conceits were that there were elves, that there were zombies and vampires from their world, and they used a magic system based on potions. Since this week's words of the world building words of the weeks are all about Sanderson's magic systems, I'm going to try to build a magic system out of the potions themselves. Elves are here now, and because this is kind of a sequel to that world last week, Elves in the City. So I'm going to start building off of that, where there are now elves after having defeated the big bad last week. They are now coming over here regularly and now have a secret society existing in Earth. And while interacting with the kids from our last adventure. So that's kind of where I'm going with it right now. I haven't really thought about it, and now it's time to go build a system with elves, potions, vampires, and zombies. Let's see what I can come up with in about an hour. So here we are. I don't know how long again, much later it is because I always forget to check, but it's definitely been under an hour. And we have developed the world and now make it a more perfect overlaid world, which is to say that the world has changed because of the fantasy conceits. It doesn't mean I have to physically change the world itself, like I don't have to have make it purple or whatever. That means like I can add dragons, or in this case elves, their magic system, and also vampires. So then I extrapolate out by what it means to have all of those things in this world and how that would affect the story world. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is an overlaid world because these things, these impossible turtles live there. So same way in this case. So here is the new overlaid world, Elves in the City, where I actually deal with all these conceits on an Earth analog, and not just an analog, on Earth itself as a primary world. When last we met, it was Elves in the City Part 1. In the finale, I think that the vampires came through and were finally defeated by the elves, who had been rallied by their children, Alice and James, I think it was, and their elf friends whose names I don't remember and haven't looked up, but let's just say Princess and Cousin, because I believe that's what they were. Alice was the older one, her brother was James, was younger, but had some connection with nature, if I remember correctly. It has been a week. Anyways, and part of the background, after the defeat of the Dark Lord, some of his vampire captains were still here and had been trapped on Earth, since the vampires can't control the portal, which, as we had from last week, is a tree ring that only the elves with the connection to nature can open. So they're stuck here, and they've broken into 4 factions. 40% of them, let's say, want to bring in, there's, 10, I guess, of the 10 of the main captains, and then some of their vampire forces, some underling minions. 40% of them want to bring back the Dark Lord. We'll get back to them in a little bit. Another 40% want to take over Earth, which, hey, they're like, there's no more Dark Lord, let's get to making life better for ourselves. Another like 19%, they want to hide out or get back to their planet, So, but they're kind of stuck here, but they don't want to fight, they don't want to take over, they just want to hide and live out their remaining immortal days. And then there's one more who wants to repent, but we'll get back to him in a little bit. So the elves, since the humans helped defeat them, even though they don't like humans, they figure they owe the humans a debt, so they're going to clear out all the vamps that are left here. So they send a team of vampire hunters that are going to live on Earth, and it's probably going to include Princess and Cousin because they're established characters. And so they're going to team up with the kids, Alice and James, who are going to show them around how to live on the planet. So there's our background. This is now I'm going to develop each of those fantasy conceits and show how they are extrapolated to the world itself. The first one is vampires, which are, I guess, more of a metaphysical conceit since they don't really abide by the laws of nature, but we are making ours kind of more physical. We're going to do more of a classic vampire that we think of, but as I showed in my book, which I just happened to actually have a copy because I was looking something up, I have a chart there that I had people break things down and what they actually thought that were the characteristics of vampire qualities. Drink blood, has fangs, immortal, destroyed by sunlight, and killed by stake through the heart were the only ones that were 50% of the people thought that a vampire needed it. So we're going to stick with definitely those, and then we're going to add a few more things, just to make it up. One of the things is they can feed on humans because otherwise the story would be very short, if not. And they can create more vampires out of humans. To that, I'm adding that they have potions. What is it? I don't know. Anyways, they have mind control, and they have enhanced speed and strength, kind of what we normally think of, but they're so much more powerful than humans or elves, as in it's generally understood you need 4 of your most badass elven fighters to take down a single vampire. So, with 1-on-1, I guess, not 1-on-1, 4-on-1, but that's just understood. These guys are professional vampire hunters, these elves, and they know the vampires are so much more powerful because of speed and strength. However, in this world, vampires cannot control animals or plants because, as I said in the last video, they're not a part of the natural world. So they also can't change their appearance just because that would take part of the conceit of them having the pointy ears and being elves. So they're not just vampires, they're vampire elves, so that's going to be kind of fun. Trying to hide and be a part of it. I think we're probably going to expand the story since the last time it took place in outside of a small town. I think the kids were supposed to be from New York City, so in the Ninja Turtle style, it might be a good idea to move it there. So anyways, let's do it to a bigger city so that they can blend in a little bit more. And let's also bring back in that one faction that wanted to bring back the Dark Lord. He was a minor mage. He was the Dark Lord was teaching him a little bit. He's not very powerful in his wizardly abilities, but he can make zombies. So we are sort of bringing that conceit in, but we're not just having a zombie invasion. It's because we were operating under the idea of the masquerade, that the elves don't want their presence to be known, which we're going to get to in just a second. Oh, look, here we are. Here we go, the elves. Their society is going to be very hierarchical, kind of going with the old Shakespeare idea of the Ucili court or whatever, not Shakespeare's, but anyways, the Ucili court, and they have a king and queen in the court, and this is the military aspect of the court, so they're going to be highly regimented and very driven. We're going to say there's 10 elves that are part of this group that there should probably be more since I've made the vampire number so much more, but let's say it's 10 just because otherwise it's too many characters to keep track of. Their goal is to wipe out the vampires and disappear. The elves still look down on humans, and they don't want to interact with them any more than they have to. So this is a hardcore masquerade. They're supposed to attack from the shadows and destroy the vampires without humans ever knowing that vampires or elves are there. But they must blend in, and unfortunately they've got the pointy ears and an antiquated speech because remember they've been separated from humans for a long time, so it actually kind of makes sense when they talk all Shakespearean. As such, they need the kids, James and Alice, to show them the ropes, even though the kids don't really understand everything. You know, it's the kids' adventures in New York City, leading elves that are trying to remain hidden with their ear bands or whatever to, you know, to hide their ears, that kind of thing. So we can make something fun with this. It's all headed by a diplomat who is like their cultural kind of attaché, even though they don't expect to make contact with anyone. And he's having the time of his life. He doesn't really realize how superior he thinks he is, but everything is very so quaint and cute. Look what these humans are doing. And we're going to cycle back. I think we said that there was one vampire who wanted to make up for all he's done. Let's call him Dalden. I don't know why I picked that name. That he's a renegade. He wants to make amends, so he ends up joining the vampire hunting team. Thing is, they don't trust him, and let's make some backstory for him that he used to be a part of the Elves good guys until he went over to the Dark Lord's side, was turned into a vampire then. So actually the captain of the guards was one of his best friends or lovers. We haven't decided which one yet, and now it has to be his handler. Doesn't trust Dalden at all, and you know, is always waiting for him to betray them, because you can't trust a vampire, especially a vampire that's already betrayed his people once, you know. Also, they use mostly knives because they don't trust guns. They're too loud, and that would just be a little weird since this is kind of a coming-of-age story with the kids. They don't really want them running around with guns. So the elves depend on knives, none of their archery, and potions, which again, we said last time was the low form of magic, but it was the high form that made the zombies and the magicians and the vampires in the first place. So anyways, I'm treating this potion system as a static cost. I've expanded, which is going to become my next book after the book that's coming out, is going to just look at magic systems, and I think I've set up 13 different types of magics based, and I started off with Sanderson's work on magic systems, which is what ties back to this week's video, as well as some of my expounding and the 4 C's of world building. And I found that magic systems kind of work along the AALC system, which is appearance, abilities, limitations, and costs. And they kind of expand out from there. It starts as a soft system and eventually becomes very, very hard. And then I'll explain all that much, much later. But anyway, so we're going to look at the potion system according to its abilities, limitations, costs, and appearance. Appearance is the most is the kind of building block. It's how it shows up in the story itself. There's the vials of cool potions, you know, so you know, they're carrying little vials, which are always fun. They're kind of cool. It's hard to throw away glass bottles myself if they look cool, because I could put a potion in it. So we're going to work with that, and we can use exotic smells and tastes, and also show what it's doing to the body, like when it enhances the body, what it does, or when it poisons them. So we get a lot of visceral things that we can work with when we're working with the appearance of the potions itself. If it was a more traditional magic system with, you know, lights flickering from their fingers or the fire or something like that, that's what we look at when we look at the appearance. Abilities, basic, you know, the healing, because of course that's what potions are for. We have all played Zelda, but they also have the enhance the body. So this is how the elves fight back against the vampires. They take strength potions, endurance potions, you know, perception. I haven't decided if they can turn themselves psychic, but because I want to keep this kind of grounded, as again, it was a low magic system originally, so it's things that can affect bodies physically. So maybe psychic, not abilities, but they can enhance their perceptions and, you know, their own physical bodies. They can also cause harm, the potions. It's a third category. Let's say an acid, you know, a vampire poison. So if it ingests, or if they drink it and the vampire bites them, the vampire will be poisoned. I guess something, you know, maybe a potion that explodes into light so it can disorient the vampire, or maybe they can bottle sunlight for a short while, or something to turn off vampire powers. So there's a lot of things we can work with when it comes to the abilities of the magic system. When it comes to limitations, which is Sanderson's bread and butter, well, the primary one is that the elves are kind of powerless without their potions. So, you know, they're good fighters, but again, it takes 4 to 1 to take on a vampire. So unless they have their potions to level the playing field. Some other limitations are the number of potions they can carry. They're kind of encumbered, plus, you know, you're carrying a lot of potions, it's making a sloshing around. And then you have to take the potions, so you have to kind of pause and take an action, if you will, if you're thinking in game systems, to actually use the potions. So they're not always on, they have to plan them out ahead of time. That's one of the many limitations. They're easy to break. You know, you get punched and you've got one in your hidden here in your pocket, then it's going to be busted. And also the rarity of the powers. So, you know, strength and speed, they might be able to carry 1 of each. Each one lasts, you know, that's the other limitation, how long they last. You know, each one lasts this long, but, you know, the bottle of sunlight, they only have 1 of those per team per month kind of thing. So it's the question of when you use them, when you don't. That's what makes the limitations make Magic Systems so much more fun, is that it increases the limit, which is the same as the cost, which is the last part of it. The costs on here doesn't mean that, you know, the character is actually giving something up, though it certainly can, but in this case it means that the time it takes to make each potion, so they've got to have a dedicated potion master, or, you know, they've used it and it's going to be 3 weeks before they can make that potion again. Materials, as in they need to find certain willow bark, and this one's not going to do, and what do you mean you don't have this plant on this planet? You know, this is not the right kind of sage we need, you know, sort of that kind of thing. So the materials, you know, we need unicorn horns, you don't have them here, you know, so we can do a lot with that on the costs. And the health of the person taking it, the potions can be addictive, let's say, or they can slowly destroy your body. So there we go. That's kind of just a bare bones Magic system based on potions. It's a static cost based system, which will one day make sense, just not right now. And yeah, we've made an overlaid world now. Earth, New York City, because all the best stories happen in New York City, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, with elves, some vampires, maybe some zombies thrown in, and elves slinging potions. So there, I hope that explained or demonstrated overlaid worlds a little bit better than last time. I hope you can use this information to build some better worlds.